Welcome, brave listeners, to a place where fear finds its final destination, where the line between fiction and reality fades into a shadowy blur. You've stepped into a world where your deepest anxieties come alive, not just in the recesses of your imagination, but in the very fabric of the stories you're about to hear. In this journey, the tales you'll encounter are more than just words. They're whispers in the dark, echoes of dread that linger long after the last note fades. As you listen, you'll find yourself questioning what's real and what's not, for in this place, the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary, and the familiar becomes something unsettling. So, as you settle in, remember this: you're not just a listener, you're a participant in the unfolding of fear. If you're ready to cross the threshold into a world where the unknown reigns, then let's begin. And before we dive in, if you enjoy what you hear, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a tale. Like, share, and invite others to join us in the shadows, because fear is always better when it's shared. This story has never been posted before. Written by user Tobias D. Title: The McDonald's Party That Never Stopped. I was never really into ghost stories. I always thought they were just tales spun to scare kids, nothing more. That was until what happened to Tyler. Tyler was the quiet one of us, the one who never really talked to anyone but had a talent for solving puzzles and riddles. I always thought that was kind of cool, in a nerdy sort of way. But Tyler was my friend, so I didn't mind. We usually played video games or played D&D. Then everything changed the day we found that old Dungeons & Dragons box. It contained a campaign no one of us recognized. We found it in a dusty pawn shop downtown. If we'd known what was inside, we never would have bought it. But how could we have known? It was just a game, or at least, that's what we thought. It was a Saturday afternoon just as any. But I remember it because we were all bored out of our minds. Tyler, Jake, Max, and I had been wandering around town, looking for something to do. That's when we stumbled upon this old pawn shop. It looked like it had been there forever, the kind of place you'd walk past 100 times and never notice. But something drew us in that day. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was something else. We browsed the aisles, picking up random stuff, like dolls or old hats making jokes, until Tyler found it. An old Dungeons & Dragons box, covered in dust, tucked away on a shelf in the back. Tyler's eyes lit up when he saw it. He loved that sort of stuff. He grabbed it, blew the dust off, and we all gathered around. It was an old edition, from the 70s, with faded artwork of knights and dragons on the cover. The box felt heavy, more than it should have been. "We should buy it," Tyler said, his voice filled with excitement. "It could be fun. We need a new campaign or something." We all agreed. It was cheap, only a few bucks. The guy at the counter barely glanced at us when we paid for it, just handed us the box and took our money. Looking back, I swear he had a strange look in his eyes, like he knew something we didn't. But at the time, we didn't think much of it. We took the box back to Jake's place and left it. We agreed to play it during Sunday afternoons as we usually did. The next day we gathered around the basement room floor, spreading out the contents. There were the usual things: dice, character sheets, maps. But at the bottom of the box, we found something unexpected. An old, yellowed envelope, sealed with wax. It was odd, out of place. Tyler picked it up, turning it over in his hands. None of us had ever seen anything like it before. "What do you think it is?" Max asked. "Only one way to find out," Tyler replied, breaking the seal. Inside was a single piece of parchment, with writing in fancy, old-fashioned script. It wasn't like anything we'd seen in a D&D game before. It was a set of instructions. Rules for a game. To play, the thought, you must gather in a circle and speak the words, "I enter the room with no doors and no windows. One among you will be chosen to be the Seeker. The Seeker must then solve the riddle to escape the room. If the Seeker fails, the game continues. If the Seeker succeeds, they may leave, but only at the cost of their own mind." A half shall remain behind to make space for the one that follows. It sounded strange, like a riddle itself. But Tyler was hooked. He loved riddles, puzzles, anything that challenged his mind. He insisted we try it out. "What's the worst that could happen?" he said with a grin. We all sat in a circle in Jake's basement, the lights dimmed, the box in the center. Tyler read the instructions again, making sure he had it right. Then, he spoke the words. I enter the room with no doors and no windows. There was a strange chill in the air, like the temperature had dropped. The room seemed to grow darker, the shadows deeper. We all felt it, a sense of unease, but we shrugged it off. Tyler sat in the center, closing his eyes, ready to be the seeker. We started asking him random riddles, simple ones at first. Tyler answered them easily, his voice confident. But then, something changed. His answers started to come slower, his voice hesitant. He was struggling, as if he couldn't think straight. We asked another riddle, and he didn't answer. He just sat there, eyes closed, face pale. "Tyler?" Jake said, concern creeping into his voice. Tyler didn't respond. He started mumbling under his breath, words we couldn't understand. Then, suddenly, his eyes snapped open. But he wasn't looking at us. His gaze was distant, like he was staring into some unseen void. Tyler collapsed, falling onto his side. We panicked, shaking him, calling his name, but he didn't wake up. It was like he was gone, his mind somewhere else. We called an ambulance, and they took him to the hospital. The doctors said he was in a coma, but they couldn't explain why. It didn't make any sense. He had been fine just moments before. Weeks passed, then months. Tyler never woke up. His parents were devastated. They stayed by his side, hoping for a miracle. But deep down, we knew. Tyler was trapped, locked inside his own mind. In that room with no doors and no windows. Just like the game had said. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I started having nightmares, dreams where I was in that room, trying to find a way out. I'd see Tyler there, sitting in the corner, his eyes empty, his mouth moving soundlessly. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, my heart racing. The shadows in my room seemed darker, as if something was lurking, watching me. I became obsessed with the game. I'd read the rules over and over, trying to make sense of it. I felt like I was going crazy. I'd hear whispers, faint and distant, like someone calling my name. I knew it was the game, pulling me in, just like it had pulled Tyler. I couldn't escape it. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I went back to Jake's house, to the room where we'd played the game. The box was still there, forgotten in a corner. I opened it, finding the envelope and the parchment inside. But there was something else, something I hadn't noticed before. A small, folded piece of paper, hidden beneath the lining of the box. I unfolded it, my hands trembling. It was another note, written in the same curly script. To escape the room, you must solve the riddle. Look in the mirror and see what you saw. Take the saw and cut the table in half. 2 halves make a hole. Climb through the hole to escape. But be warned, the hole is never empty. It requires a sacrifice. Half of your mind must remain behind to make room for what comes next. I stared at the note, my mind racing. The riddle didn't make any sense. There was no mirror, no saw, no table. It was all a trick, a cruel joke. But then I realized, the room wasn't a real place. It was inside our minds. Tyler was still in there, trying to solve this riddle. He was trapped, and so was I. I felt a cold dread wash over me. The shadows seemed to shift, growing darker, more solid. I could feel something behind me, waiting, just out of sight. The presence that had been following me, waiting for me to play the game. I had to get out, I had to escape before it was too late. But I knew, deep down, that there was no way out. The game had trapped us, just like it had trapped Tyler. There were no doors, no windows. Just darkness, and the endless, unanswerable riddle. The whispers were louder now, echoing in my ears. I could hear Tyler's voice among them, faint and desperate. He was calling for help, pleading. But there was something else, another voice, deep and hollow, promising escape. Leave half behind, it whispered, and you will be free. Half of your mind, half of your soul. Make space for me, and I will let you out. I realized then that this was the real game. Not just a riddle, but a bargain. To escape, you had to give up a part of yourself, to make room for something dark and sinister. A piece of your mind, of your sanity, in exchange for freedom. But it was a freedom tainted by darkness, a freedom that came with a price. I could feel the presence pressing in, waiting for me to agree, to give in. I knew that once I did, I would never be the same. Something would come back with me, something that wasn't me. It would live in my mind, in the space I'd left behind, whispering, watching, waiting. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the darkness around me. I thought of Tyler, of his empty eyes, of the shadows in my room. I realized then that I was already lost, that the game had already won. I'm writing this down because I don't know how much time I have left. The shadows are closing in, and I can feel the darkness creeping into my mind. I can hear the whispers, growing louder, calling my name. I know now that I'm the seeker, just like Tyler. The game has chosen me. If you find this, don't look for the box. Don't read the rules. Don't play the game. Because once you start, there's no way out. You'll be trapped, just like us. And the worst part is, even if you find a way to escape, you'll leave a part of yourself behind. A part that's forever lost in that room with no exit. And in that empty space, something else will move in. Something dark, something evil. So, whatever you do, don't play the thought. Because in the end, it's not just a game. It's a trap that feeds on your mind, your fears, your thoughts. And once it has you, it will never let go. And even if you escape, you'll never be alone again.